Every time I do this, I get worse and worse and worse and worse at it. I'm a mess. I'm a mess and a half. I'm not going to do too much until someone watching right now tells me that they can hear me, because this continues to be a problem for this show, and I would like to make sure that it is not at the beginning of the episode from now on, until such a time as it's no longer a problem. So anyone in the comments, if you can just take a moment and let me know that you can actually understand what I am saying right now, I would very much appreciate that. The audio is doing sexy, so I'm going to take that as a sign as it is doing well. Well, I don't know, it's Matthew Bennett, and he likes screwing with me, so maybe I've got this whole echo chamber effect going on here. It's always hard to tell. Usually when I can hear myself, that's a good sign, though. Anyway, let's go ahead and talk about what we're going to be talking about. So, well, I should say, I'm going on my belated honeymoon at the end of this week. I'm leaving Saturday for it, and so I'm gone next week. I will be in Florida. There will be no comic reviews next week. So there's your announcement. There's your warning ahead of time. We're very excited. We're going to Universal Studios, which will be really awesome. They do like a whole thing where they turn the entire park into like a giant haunted house kind of situation, like you do with the we got a couple of them here, like the haunted whatever. They turn the whole park into attractions like that for Halloween. We're going to the Fright Night on October 31st. That's really exciting. It should be a lot of fun. But as such, I will not be here to do comic reviews. So I'm trying to decide whether or not to do a stream once I get back, or maybe to just hold off and do like a big week the next week. You know, people leave me comments, let me know what you think you would prefer me to do. We'll just see what happens as the mood strikes. But anyway, so fair warning, no live show next week. Sorry folks, but good news. Geeky Gentlemen will be uninterrupted. You will get consistent episodes of Geeky Gentlemen on the days that they're supposed to be uploaded and everything. There will not be a break in Geeky Gentlemen through the last section of Horror Month and into the first week of History Month. So I hope you all take the time and listen to those episodes and really enjoy them. Did some great episodes, got those out. They're technically up now, but scheduled, so you can't see them yet. But anyway, let's talk about comics, shall we? So this week, we've got a pretty full week. We're going to be discussing Batman Beyond number 13, Renato Jones' Freelancer number 4, DC House of Horror number 1, Silver Surfer number 14, and Wonder Woman number 33. As well as for Trade Talk this week, kind of an interesting little thing I found called Prince of Persia Before the Sandstorm. So that'll be the trade we discussed this week. Set in the same universe as the movie, for those curious. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started since I got a couple people here. How many people do I have here? Does it tell me? Yeah, 5 watching. Cool. That is plenty. I'm also wearing a Sonic the Hedgehog t-shirt, so, you know, gotta go fast. Alright, so Batman Beyond number 13 is where we're starting this week. This is pretty obviously a fill-in issue. And I don't say that just because the artist is also writing it. It's pretty evident that it's a fill-in issue because it just is hard to follow, looks rushed together, and does just not impress, unfortunately. You know, when I saw Bernard Chang was doing both the writing and the art for this issue, I was like, oh, cool. Let's see what he can do. It's not impressive from a writing standpoint. There's just a lot going on here, and I do not have the ability to follow this many plot threads at one time for a single issue. So Gotham is having its defenses turned on itself. And Terry McGinnis is running around the city trying to access the terminals that will allow them to turn those defenses off. Along the way, he runs into Shriek and Hacker, who are two, I guess, villains in the Batman Beyond universe. As well as, well, I know Shriek is. I don't think I've ever heard of Hacker. He might have been introduced in a comic or something. And then he also runs into Freon, who is another character. I have no idea where she came from. She might have been introduced in the comics at one point, but I missed her. Anyway, so he runs into these other two villains as he's trying to turn off the terminals, and they attack him, and so there's fight scene. And then he runs into Freon, and she attacks him, so there's fight scene. And then Shriek and Hacker show up as Terry seems to be in a really bad scrape with Freon, like, radiating him or whatever the hell it is she does. And Shriek and Hacker show up and they save him, and they all work together to end her as a threat and thus save Gotham City's defenses from targeting the city itself. Meanwhile, so that doesn't seem like too hard a plot thread to follow. And honestly, it's not. But there are like 4 other things happening while that's all happening. So then there's the B plot, which is Terry's little brother Matt is at a tri-ball game, which is like basketball, but the court's kind of like a triangle shape. I could show you on panel, but I bought drawing stuff, so I'm going to draw it because why the hell not? So yeah, Matt's playing a game of what they call tri-ball, and it's the strangest thing, honestly. I do not understand how this would be a sport with any kind of sense unless you had like 3 teams. But the court's designed really strangely, and I had to get it out there. And anyway, so like Matt's playing that, and then Terry's also, you know, trying to get to that game so that he can see his little brother play. And we see his brother's team tie up the game. So the circles will be where there are basketball hoops. So yeah, this is the court layout for a game of tri-ball. It's just like a little basketball hoop, basketball hoop, basketball hoop. I don't get that. But anyway, it's a unique design. I'd like to actually see someone try to play that. It could be fun, but it's just weird. So anyway, Matt's playing tri-ball, and his team manages to get the game all tied up as, you know, they go into the last minute or two. And Terry's trying to make it there in time. So there's the B plot. And then the C, D, E, and F plot is showing how both Hacker and Shriek got to where they are. So it's just strange. I do not understand why they did this. So like we open the issue, and right away, just on the bottom row of panels, you have like what happened to Shriek during the whole Brother Eye thing, which I'm just tired of explaining at this point. And so you just keep going back to Shriek breaking out of prison and going down to the tunnels, where he is now kind of worshipped as a god by all these poor people that live down there, and he's seen as their protector, and it gave him purpose in life to be their protector. And so that's all going on in the bottom. Oh, there's a good panel of the tri-ball game. So that's all going on down in the bottom of it. And then when Terry goes up a level to Chinatown of Gotham, we see Hacker's origin in the bottom 3 panels. As, like, he was this guy, you know, playing on his mom's computer when suddenly something happened, it blew up, and this was during Brother Eye's first attempt to, you know, start taking over Gotham. And Hacker had to fight off one of Brother Eye's robots and blow it the fuck up. And that's his origin. And then we get to Freon showing up, and like her thing is just confusing as fuck, but her origins all throughout the bottom panels, and that's just like a really hard thing to keep up with. Like, it'd be one thing if this all happened in one story, but it's the fact that we're jumping from story to story and we don't really understand the full context until like halfway through the book. So like Freon's takes up the most amount of time. And I don't know, I will give Bernard Chang credit for this. As a visual story, I feel like I immediately understood that these bottom panels were in the past, but to switch perspectives is the storytelling mistake there. To switch characters that this bottom row of panels is focusing on is a big storytelling mistake, because you don't know who it's about anymore. And I gotta try to remember, maybe this is my fault for reading this in print, but like, is Batman Beyond still a digital first book? Because I know for a while there it was, like when New 52 was going on and stuff, I know Batman Beyond's series was digital first, but I don't know if it still is to this day. Because if it's digital first, then it kind of makes some sense, because like, you know, we get these panels that show you the past, and then once you flip the page, you get a big full page of action, and then the panels switch perspective. So, you know, I picked up on that, but it's halfway through the book before I pick up on that, and I don't know, it's a really weird thing to try to wrap your head around in just a 22-page comic when you're already following an A plot and a B plot. Like, that's the thing, is you get the A plot of Batman trying to save the city, and then you get the B plot of the basketball game. The basketball game is not important whatsoever. Let me be very frank about that. The basketball game has no importance to the story whatsoever. It's just Terry wants to go see his brother play this tri-ball basketball game. Cool. Literally, you don't need that. You know, Matt could be at home watching a movie or something. And you could check in on that once. We do not need to continually check in on this. I will give Bernard Chang credit, though. From a panel structure thing, I like that what's going on when we have all these events happening, what's going on in the present, with Terry's at the top, with Matt at the tri-ball games in the middle, and then what's going on in the past is at the bottom. It's just too many plot elements to try to follow. So it's a structurally strong thing, but it's a pretty messed up plot to try to keep following. And again, you can see it's all there, it's all visually laid out for you throughout the entire issue, but like right from the beginning it's visually laid out that way, which is cool. But it's too much to follow plot-wise. It doesn't matter that it's well told from a story structure thing. And then again, there's just the fact that like the basketball game is not important, so you're devoting your attention that could be spent thinking about these characters in the past to something that's going on in the present and really isn't important as far as this issue is concerned. And from what I can tell, this issue is self-contained. This doesn't look like it's going to be leading into much of anything else, because at the end it says next Back to the Future, which is apparently going to be when Jurgens rejoins the book and does his own thing with it. So I was not impressed by this. Bernard Chang's been the artist on this book since the beginning, and he does a solid job. There's no denying that. Like, he really grabs your attention with some of these pages. These full page spreads look really good. It's just, and you know, I like the layout of the tri-ball court. That's a neat idea. I don't understand how you would play it, because like, you know, the reason you have basketball is because, okay, each net is a team's net. Would tri-ball be like Quidditch, where like if you get goals in different nets, they're worth more? But like, wouldn't that just mean you'd go to the the net that's worth the most every time. I mean, I suppose the value could switch between nets each time. Like the points could change randomly. But still, it's just a weird idea. So like I'm kind of interested to see how it would go. And then there's just this weird tone with the Gotham Games is the name of the story, and like the way this is set up. Because Barbara Gordon straight tells Mayor Fox, I like that, you know, Lucius Fox's son. Yeah, it's Lucius Fox Jr., that's right. Anyway, Gordon straight up tells him, no, you have to go on with this. And it's ominous as fuck, in all honesty. There's no getting around it. It's just ominous as fuck. Just got confirmation. Junction has been deactivated. I wish I shared your confidence in the Batman, Barbara. He can handle this. You should go on with the games. Ah, yes. The Gotham Games. Citizens of Neo-Gotham, as we weather this city's latest challenge, we must remember to push ever forward, to never give up. So let the games begin. Like, that's some Hunger Games level shit right there. That just sounds ominous. What's Matthew Bennett say in the comments? Can we get an official Kiki Gentleman Tribal team? Our mascot can be the reanimated corpse of Orson Welles. I'd be down. But no, just like it sounds so Orwellian, doesn't it? Like this, it sounds like some Hunger Games. You know, we must fight. We must still go through with the games. It's like, dude, it's a fucking basketball. Like, could you imagine if like New York City was being attacked by, I don't know, aircraft fire or something, but like there was one guy out there trying to stop it all, and like the mayor of New York was like, we got to continue this Knicks game. It's important. Like, that would be fucking bizarre. Like, no, it's not that important. Like, the city could blow the fuck up. People should be evacuated. So yeah, like it not only distracts you from what's going on with the true plot of the book, it's really dumb when you think about it. So this is not a strongly plotted book. And that's unfortunate. But art-wise, I still think that Bernard Chang does some really cool stuff. Like, I like the look. As far as I know, Hacker's never been introduced before, but he's got a cool design to him. He's got like a, you know, pretty fitting power for future Batman. He's got this rod, and he can stab stuff with it and overwrite its programming. I mean, I would say that's not how hacking works, but we are in the future, so it could be how hacking works in the future. It doesn't work on Batman's costume because the coding is so unique. I don't know, that's like a cool way to visualize the suit, you know, kind of projecting like a firewall or something and try to stop the attack. It's neat enough. It's fine. But it's not doing a lot for me. We're back to the Batman Beyond suit putting like detail, just too much detail into the original suit, and I talked about that ad nauseum in the past, so I'm not really going to go into it again. I don't think it looks good with this suit design to do anything other than minimalist, and this is trying to do stuff other than minimalist with this suit design, so I don't think that's a particularly strong choice. Freon getting her full page spread. I mean, it looks good. It's cool. In the end, though, they all come together and defeat the bad guy. Yada, 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 yada. Shit happens. People die. Not really. I guess it's not the suit projecting firewalls. I guess that's how Hacker projects his hacking. Meh. What can you do? Alright, I've talked about this book now. Let's go ahead and go on to Renato Jones, Freelancer number 4. I really like how Kyle Andrews does these wraparound covers. Those look really cool. That is by far my favorite image of Renato Jones I've seen so far. He has a lot of cool, visually iconic kind of looks for Renato throughout all the books and the covers and stuff, but this one is by far my favorite. It just looks so cool. Anyway, this opens really, really horrifically. So we got children running in a beautiful field towards their mother on a bright sunny day, and then she puts her hand up to look at the bright, bright sun. And there's this sudden look of just horror in her eyes. We don't quite know why, and then we do the page flip, and you can miss it. You can blink and miss it if you just focus on the family down there. But look at the sun. It's not the sun. It's being blotted out by something with fins. And then we get another page flip of just straight black for 2 pages. And then this blinding white and these skeletal figures. I really, really love the transition there between the moment of realization, the visual clue of what's coming, but you can miss it. The stark black for 2 pages that you don't have proper context for, and then the blinding white with the skeletal forms, you know, fading away in the atomic fire. That is solid visual storytelling. It takes up a lot of the pages. I mean, that's a good chunk of the book, and then we get a 2-page spread of an ad for Oblivion. One of those fake ads. That's a pretty good chunk of your opening book, but it's a good way to grab you. Anyway, so at the end of the last issue, President Nikola launched off a bunch of nukes, and he had the most wealthy people in the world in the White House with him at the time. And we get to find out what his evil plan is. So there are thousands of nukes, hundreds of nukes, let's say, traveling across the atmosphere toward the U.S., and Nikola tells all these rich people that the U.S. defenses will intercept some of them depending on how generous you're feeling, and tells them to hand over all their money, to transfer all their money to him. So I talked about this last time when we saw the president in this comic, launch a nuclear missile. Of Kyle Andrews wanted Renato Jones to be a satire, but then just shit started happening in this administration that is just completely farcical to the point of being ludicrous. Like at times it'd be funny if it weren't real, right? You'd see the Trump administration doing its shit on television in a comedy, and you'd be like, oh, come on, that would never fucking happen. How could anyone be that stupid? It fucking does it. And so this, trying to do a satire when the reality is satirical is a real pain in the ass. So Kyle Andrews is going to apocalyptic levels of crazy to try to deliver on the satire. And I mean, I hope to fucking God Trump doesn't do this. Jesus. I like this little catchphrase that his mindless followers say: wealth, power, blood, and oil. Obviously lampooning the alt-right neo-Nazis and stuff. So it's like, blood and soil is one of their catchphrases, and this goes wealth, power, blood, and oil. It's a good way to mix those two, the forces of capitalism along with the forces of Nazism. They feed into each other, and they're all doing the Zeke Heil, so that's pretty cool. Anyway, Renato find. Oh, I also really like this detail. The would-be fascists have on armbands, and they have dollar signs instead of swastikas. That's real special right there. Anyway, so Renato is doing something with this poor family he's been trying to help, but when he hears the news of this, he rushes to get ready and go to the White House. I love this little sequence of him getting ready. He takes the time to brush his teeth, properly tie the tie, spray on some cologne. I love that the cologne has the little, like, Justice de la Cour thing that we've been seeing throughout all the fake advertisements throughout this book. Come on. God damn it. Went right past it. Yeah. There's the Justice Deluxe. So that's pretty cool. Carrie Kyle Andrews uses the term SJW in quite a hilarious way. I'll just read what this guy says. So all the guys working for the president gunned down a bunch of protesters, and a cop tries to help revive some of them, help, you know, stop some of them from bleeding out, and the fascists capture him and drag him over. Like, found this cop trying to help the wounded. Well, what do we have here? A real SJW for life. Shut up, SJW. No one wants to hear your virtue signaling. You're supposed to be on our side. Government taxes pay for you to enforce the laws to protect us, not them. But that's okay, SJW. There are more of us than you would ever guess. Our will is resolute, our numbers growing. If you are not up to the task, then we will protect this great land and all of its wealth for ourselves. You killed innocent people, kids, for what? Money? Blood and oil! It's always been about the money, and we're just warming up. I really like that, because I just watched a stupid-ass video. Like, anytime I hear someone use the term SJW, virtue signaling, any of that shit, beta male cuck, any of that shit, like, legitimately as an insult, I just fucking laugh. It's the dumbest shit. Like, I could deconstruct why, but, like, just the term SJW, ignoring virtue signaling and beta male cuck, just the term SJW is so fucking stupid as an insult. Like, social justice warrior is what that stands for. And trying to call someone that as an insult just sounds so weird to me. It's like, you SJW, you warrior for social justice. Being a warrior is badass. Fighting for social justice is just fundamentally a good thing. Because, like, if you acknowledge that someone is fighting for social justice, then you admit that there is social injustice. And so it just is stupid. It's a dumb insult. So, like, just seeing it used here by this, like, fucking little wannabe Nazi son of a bitch with a $ swastika armband is just funny as fuck. Virtue signaling, you know, beta male cuck, all that shit. I can tear down why those are stupid insults. But anyway, Renato Jones shows up, and I love this. This is that's a poster. That's a poster right there. Choke on this. That's great. So he shows up and starts kicking the shit out of these guys, and I love this little moment. Wait, it's just a joke, bro. Just for fun. It didn't mean anything, I swear. Fucking yes. Oh, God, I love that shit. Oh, that is the best when these little... Seeing the way these bastards cower when they actually get confronted by something. Like, the second you take power away from a bully kind of moment right there. I'll be honest, like, one of my things that I just love kind of objectively, like, it doesn't... Or not objectively. One of the things that I just love, like, without any remorse for it, is just seeing bullies get their comeuppance. it's the best. I love scenes where bullies get their comeuppance when things get turned on their head, and you know, I love seeing a bully get his ass kicked. And so seeing Renato Jones come in here and, you know, start fucking murdering a bunch of neo-Nazis is just the best kind of feeling. I can get enough of that. That is great. And then just with the choke on this. Ah, yes. Oh, it's a great feeling. It's a great feeling. Let's hear Matthew Bennett. Virtue signaling by companies and people on Twitter is so hollow. It does, fucking whatever. If you're going to use virtue signaling, just go. I have no time for that shit. Anyway. Nuclear missiles sent by the Russians. A rich guy is sitting here saying, I won't pay a fucking dime. I'll die with all my money, you son of a bitch. You can't kill me. And then he just gets his leg ripped off by this fucking mutated bastard that the president's daughter's got on a leash. I'm sure there's some kind of commentary there, because she kind of looks like Ivanka. And I like this commentary. This is a neat little thing. You just won't stop, will you? They say every action has a consequence, every purchase has a price. There's always a way to win, to be above them, to rule. They say you can't fire a freelancer, that he works for himself. But I know a freelancer's weakness. Deadlines. They call them that for a reason. Because a freelancer will kill himself trying to make them. That's a really, really cool point, because, you know, there's a timer. There are missiles coming toward the country, so Renato Jones, the Freelancer, which is the title of Season 2, has to get there by a certain point. And so that really works. The idea of creating a deadline causes him a problem, because so often, you know, the power that Renato Jones has had in previous issues has come via the fact that he is able to set up and plan things in advance and you know, kind of screw people over. He's completely caught unaware by this scenario. So just as like a supervillain plot side of things, and I even get into the commentary, particularly since this book is also owned by Kyle Andrews. Not even getting into the social commentary aspect of it, as, you know, an artist working for a company, that kind of thing. Just a comic book villain plot that's really clever. But it also, again, it works really well with the fact that Kyle Andrews owns this book and he's putting it out. And the funny thing is, this issue, I'm pretty sure, was late. So yeah, it's a neat little stack of commentary there. And so the president is 100% sure that Renato Jones will never make it in time, into the White House in time, because there's that much security. It doesn't matter when he gets here or anything, because there's so much security, he's not going to have the chance to make it in. And yet, you turn the page and you see Renato standing in his tux around all these security guards saying, oh, yeah, sorry I was late to this party of all the rich people, but I never miss it. Now, I'm absolutely famished. Where's the dinner at? That's clever. The thing is, I'm pretty sure, I know for a fact, Bliss knows who Renato is as the Freelancer, and I'm pretty sure her father figured it out, if I'm remembering things correctly. So I'm really interested to see where this side of the plot goes, because Renato doesn't know that that her father knows, and he doesn't know that she seems to be very willingly working with her father, or he might. He's been keeping tabs, and he's been kind of, you know, off the radar lately, so he might be aware, but he's taken this risk anyway. That's kind of clever. SuperShopperStudios.com might actually have limited edition Renato Jones merchandise. I'm not sure if that's true or not, or if that's just a fake ad. Is it a real ad within the context of the fake ads? Anyway. So, yeah, that's the last issue till the season finale. Again, I really like the way a lot of this looks. It's got just a really... It's got that Frank Miller style, you know, ugly but meant to be ugly kind of feel for it. Just as you look at these guys, like, just look how much ink and shading is done on this guy and the president's face here. It's just, they look ugly. They look hideous. They look evil as shit. And contrast that with the white shirts, that just works really well. That all kind of builds and functions together in a really cool way. What else? And it's neat that the bad guys are wearing white, and when we see Renato get suited up, he's of course wearing mostly black. So I like that. That's a neat little contrast. Again, there's a lot of stuff going on here with color and contrast. Like, to go back to the beginning of the book, we get the black pages and then the white pages. You can probably do a whole thing on the contrast of colors in this issue. Because a lot of Renato's paneling is pretty white, but he stands out because he's wearing black. A lot of the bad guys' paneling is pretty black, but they stand out because they're wearing white. Yeah. Digging it, man. Digging it. Alright, well. Here's an interesting, because he's, of course, wearing a black tux surrounded by all these guys wearing white. Matthew Bennett's talking about the ads in comics. Well, this actually doesn't have real ads, is the thing. That's one of the more interesting things I really like about this book. Like, it's got 2 ads in it. Oblivion, Renato Jones, Justice Deluxe, and at the end we got Renato Jones merchandise. And, like, it could very well just be fake. It's, I'll certainly look it up because I'm curious. I'd love that gun. But the point of those is very much connected to the fact that this is written, drawn, colored, and owned by Kyle Andrews. You know, he's making a very big deal out of the fact that he has ownership of this, that, like, no matter what you're watching or reading or something, it is owned by a person, and so you are, on some level, getting their view on things. And if a thing is owned by a corporation, there's things that are inserted into that work for specifically the corporation's interest. So you can see this all over the place in different forms of media. Akuma Ranger asks a question, are the ads in the trades? Yes, they are. I wasn't sure about that, but yes, they are. No, but of course everything has a subtext, everything has a message to it, and that message usually comes from who owns it. So Kyle Andrews, by putting the owned in big capital letters and, you know, setting off the color to really point your attention at it, really does make a statement on that. And so he puts ads in here, but he puts in ads for fake products that don't exist and add to the commentary. You know, Oblivion, when you're looking at the remnants of a nuclear explosion. Otherwise, a lot of cool stuff in here, man. I'm disappointed it's coming to an end again. Hoping we get season 3, depending on how it ends, obviously. Yeah. Let's go ahead and go on to an expensive-ass book. DC House of Horror #1. Now you guys are talking about ads in comics. It's interesting that comes up because this book has no ads. This is effectively I'm talking about 2 trades tonight. Because I get all the way to the end, and the only ad in it is what's been in all the DC books this week, which is an interview with Gal Gadot that I'm not particularly interested in reading. So you get your money's worth. It is like a small trade, a cheap trade. It's pretty thick. You get a couple stories. If only it was good. So, like, I think this suffers from trying to do too many things at once. What this really should have been is either be a multi-part series, be longer, or just, you know, not do as many stories. Because I don't mind all these stories on premise alone. They could be interesting. But, like, it feels like just when the premise gets going, it's over and we're on to the next thing. The story's over and we're on to the next thing. So we get several short stories here. Let's see here. Bump in the Night, a Superman story written by Edward Lee. All these are plotted by Keith Giffen. Giffen? 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 That sounds right. Nathan Snyder, they do have ads in the trades for Renato Jones. Anyway, so we got Bump in the Night, a Superman story written by Edward Lee. Got Man's World, a Wonder Woman story written by Mary SanGiovanni. Crazy for You, a Harley Quinn story written by Brian Smith and Brian Keene. Last Laugh, a Batman story written by Nick Cutter. Blackest Day, a Justice League story written by Brian Keene. Stray Arrow, a Green Arrow story written by Ronald Malfi. Unmasked, a Two-Face story written by Wrath James White. And The Possession of Billy Batson, a Shazam story written by Weston Ashi. So, like, that's a lot. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stories in a pretty short book. And so the first story is about Superman's ship crash lands outside the Kent's farm. Martha hears the landing and is like, okay, Jonathan must be checking it out on the field, but he dies on impact. And so then she has to deal with this strange little monster boy that is now chasing her through her house and around the farm. And guys, this is a pretty brutal-ass book because she goes to run into the tool shed. Martha Kent gets laser visioned by this little monster Superboy. And as she tries to, get away and drive herself to the hospital to treat her fucking facial burns, Superboy lands on the car, picks it up, throws it, and then, she crawls out of it. She's like crawling on broken glass. He laser visions the car, blows it up, and takes off to go cause terror around the world. And that's the whole story. That is the entire story. I wanted to see more of Monster Boy Superman. That could have been interesting. Because there is like a scary version of Superman's story, right? Like, what if it was just an uncontrollable alien monster? And not like a normal baby when he was young. Yeah, that makes a difference. That's an interesting premise for kind of an Elseworldsy thing. But like it's over before it gets started. That could be the opening chapter of at least half this book. But instead it's like that. Look at how much more is left to read. It's just too much story way too quickly. Then we have Man's World, a Wonder Woman story. A girl is at a sleepover with her friends looking up, or doing the whole Ouija board thing, and they try to contact an Amazon, but she ends up getting possessed and murdering all her friends, then running around on the streets, murdering a cop, stealing his clothes, murdering her abusive father, and she looks in the mirror and sees Wonder Woman and laughs maniacally while speaking in ancient Greek. It's over before it begins, and that's not as interesting a premise. Because, there's nothing about that's Wonder Woman, right? Like, you could literally, you could replace every panel of Wonder Woman here with literally anything else. This is a possession story. It has nothing to do with Wonder Woman. They say, oh, we're going to contact Amazons. Okay. Well, maybe, the story's called Man's World, so maybe it'll be about this girl possessed by an Amazon killing men. Nope. Kills women and men indiscriminately. Technically kills more women than men. So it's just pointless. Like, I could Photoshop Wonder Woman out of this. This feels like they had a script already, and they retroactively fit it to throw Wonder Woman in. Then we've got this story, Crazy for You, which is a Harley Quinn story in which this guy wakes up as he's just finished murdering his wife, and he sees the ghost of Harley Quinn. And he's like, wait, what's happening? What's happening? And he flashes back to working in Arkham Asylum as they get ready to tear it down, when he went to go check a hallway and found the showers and spotted the ghost of Harley Quinn naked there. And now she's obsessed with him and in love with him. And she's taking over his mind and forcing him to go kill. So he was forced to kill his loved ones, and then he was forced to kill his coworkers. Then he was forced to kill his wife by Harley Quinn. And he's freaking out about this and trying to figure out what to do, and he tries to run away, but she's like, I'm never going to leave you alone. I'm going to keep making you do these things. And to her, they're in love. It's a classic romance. That one was a bit better. That one I liked more. That one had more going for it. The idea that Harley Quinn's ghost would, like, haunt someone in that way by, you know, being the abuser in an abusive relationship after death. I like that. That's got some more going for it. The art's a little, like, murky. A lot of cross-hatching, a lot of splotch kind of coloring. And that's an effect that doesn't work, like, 100%. Like, you definitely get the impression that Harley Quinn is supposed to be, you know, translucent, but she's not quite, though. There's just a lot where, like, you can't quite see through her. It's just, she's still drawn, you know, kind of over everything. That would have been probably a better move to do with the, like, import and opacity tool of Photoshop. Like, you could still draw her out and everything, but then just put her in post. So I don't know, it was not, you know, that one was the best so far, but that's not saying much. Then the next story is Batman going crazy. And this story isn't complicated. Batman is Batman and the Joker. He thinks he's out on the streets helping the people of Gotham, but really he's just completely crazy, and he's just brutally murdering people in the streets. He didn't actually see his parents die in an alley. He killed his parents. You know, he kills his parents, and he's completely bonkers, and as he's coming to terms with this, planning to kill the Joker, finally, he realizes that he is the Joker and turns the gun on himself. And we get that reveal that wasn't already painfully spelled out by painfully spelling it out and zooming in on his Joker attire. It's just okay. If you like the premise of Batman and the Joker are literally the same person, go read Batman Two Faces. I know it sounds like a Two-Face story, and Two-Face is in it, but trust me, it's about Batman and the Joker being the same person. Anyway, then the next story is called Blackest Day, and it's about Earth is going through a zombie apocalypse. The Flash goes up to the Watchtower after being bitten and infects the rest of the Justice League. Green Lantern's the last survivor, but he's able to blow up the Watchtower before the zombie virus completely takes him over after getting his ring finger bitten off. Superman was out in space at the time. And so our conclusion, our little epilogue here in the three little boxes is 3 weeks later, Superman returned home to discover that he was the last survivor of a dead planet again. Okay. I mean, I'm not a zombie fan, so I didn't find this particularly interesting. You know, you really had to work to make any kind of sense of, okay, yeah, Flash is... If you're going to have anyone infect the Justice League to become zombies, Flash makes more sense than anything else. Like, is it just Green Lantern versus zombies? Oh no, zombies! If only I had a super powerful shield that could stop, you know, fucking laser blasts. Oh wait, I do. So zombies definitely aren't going to be able to get through it. But like Flash, just he still has his speed even though he's a zombie. So he's able to use that to surprise Green Lantern and bite his finger off and do the same thing to the rest of the Justice League. It's whatever. I'm not a big zombie fan though, so I don't know. I find that kind of less than interesting. I will say one thing I do like about this is all the endings are depressing. All the endings are sad. There is no happy ending in this book, and I like that about it. Then we get this Green Arrow story where it's called Stray Arrow. The Green Arrow is like a really brutal vigilante that is killing the criminals of Gotham. And then he finds Black Canary one night as she's being attacked by a rapist. And he kills the rapist, but then decides to take Black Canary home and keep her in a cage for reasons. She screams and eventually tricks him into getting too close to the cage, and then she murders the fuck out of him, gets out of the cage, and disappointed in him because he uses fucking arrows. How pathetic. Because she's her own insane murderous vigilante. And she gonna keep on doing that on her own instead of working with him. Okay. I mean, whatever. It's the least ridiculous of these. Then we have Unmasked. This is a Two-Face story. Unmasked has got to be the most what moment of a comic I think I've ever read. Like, talk about tonal shift. Okay. Here we have Harvey Dent in an alley looking at a body that has had its face cut off and identifying markers removed. Alright. So he is wondering who could have done something like this. Who the killer is. Who done it? And we get the page turn. And we get a note from the killer that says, "Beneath our masks, we are all the same. Show the world your true face, or I will do it for you." That is the first panel of the second page of this story. The third panel is the alleyway they're in collapsing. Several panels more of them running away. And then, on the next page, we reveal what caused the building to collapse. And it's a fucking kaiju. We started with a detective murder mystery premise story, and we've created the drama by throwing in a kaiju. Now, I want you to understand, the kaiju does not have any real bearing on the plot. Like, the kaiju gets them to run into a shelter. Yeah, Nathan's there like, wait, what? Look at that. It's a giant praying mantis kaiju. The kaiju does not really serve any function in the plot aside from making them run into a shelter. And then the plot progresses from in there. But, like, you could have done that with a hurricane. You could have done that with a supervillain attack. You could have done that with, like, there are a number of things. Kaiju is very low on that list. So anyways, Harvey Dent is trapped in this big Superdome place that everyone is, you know, taking refuge from the fucking kaiju in, and thinking about the note, he decides, I can't be a coward and just sit here hiding. These people are all rioting and going crazy. I've got to protect the innocents among them. So, you know, stops a purse snatcher. But then the rioting continues, and it's too much for him to handle. So he thinks more about this face cutter offer villain, And then the lights go out, and suddenly people start losing faces. And he goes and sits down and talks to some people in the dark, and then they realize, wait, that's blood on your clothes. And then he starts murdering more people. We see a dead child. You don't normally get away with dead child in comics. That usually is where people go, okay, we can't show a dead kid. Or if we're going to show a dead kid, let's tone it down a bit. Let's not, be too gruesome with it. You can just show like a limp arm or something like that. No. We cut a child's face off for this issue. This story did not earn that. It did not, on any conceivable level, earn that. You threw a kaiju into your fucking book to get people into a goddamn building that they can't leave. Let me tell you, there are about 1.5 million ways you can do that do not involve fucking kaiju. And now that you're there, you're murdering a child and showing us the visual. That's just trying to shock, and it's just disgusting. It's just stupid. So anyways, we got Harvey Dent murdering people and ripping their faces off. And then as he attempts to leave, the kaiju blasts his face with green fire, and he turns into, Two-Face. So that is easily the worst story in this. Like, the Wonder Woman one, the Wonder Woman story is, like, not good, and clearly not about Wonder Woman. It's too short, but, like, it still functions. It still has a beginning, middle, and end. It still is a story that makes, logical leaps within its own set of rules. This one is fucking all over the map stupid. Anyway, then we get what I think is the best story of the book, which is the possession of Billy Batson. And so we have Billy Batson, who is a guy that clearly has some issues, and he keeps hearing people tell him to say the word Shazam as he is having an internal argument in his head with this force that just wants him to say the word Shazam. And so he's like walking around, and just everywhere he's seeing the word Shazam, 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 and he's being told, hey, just say Shazam, just say it, just say it, just say Shazam, say Shazam, say it, just say it. We get this like weird internal voice. We really could be great friends, Close. It's in the accent, the way you say it. Shazam, 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 just say Shazam. And Billy Batson's like, shut up, shut up, shut up. And like, I really like the way the art utilizes things here, because literally any time you see, buildings and stuff in the background, it's just the word Shazam everywhere. Like, all the street signs say Shazam on them. And when he's talking to people, they're just telling him to say Shazam. Like, he's getting coffee at this place called Shazam Cafe. And this lady that's pouring him coffee is just saying to him, all you need to do is say the word, Billy. And, like, he's walking down the street and passes a woman and says, you're going to do it in the end. You know that, right? Like, that's unnerving. That's creepy. This is interesting horror, as we got this guy who is, the implication here is that it's not really the word. It's not like he's going to turn into Captain Marvel. It's that he is going to be giving up control of himself to this other person, other force that's inside his head, this craziness. And then he's like sitting there, succumbing to the pressure. And he's like, if I say it, will you leave me alone? Will you leave Laura alone? And you have the voice just being like, say it and I'll never ask you again. I won't need to. We'll be together forever. And this is brilliant. Not only comic book writing, but this is a brilliant way to visualize a really scary and unnerving, horrific kind of ending. So we have this panel of him looking kind of unsure, kind of determined. There's a lot to this facial expression. You can read this a lot of different ways. Maybe he's mustering up the strength. Maybe he's second-guessing himself at the last minute. And so what does he do? Black page. Shazam! We don't know what happens. That is such like, that is a really, really great ending. That should have been the other half of the book. The first half of this book should have been the Superman story, because it was the only other one that was like, you know, pretty good and kind of clever on its own. And then the second half should have been the Shazam story, but just stretch it out more. Because you could do some really, really interesting things if you see him more when he is not seeing the word Shazam everywhere. But as is, everything in the middle is pretty much worthless. Yeah, this was a mixed bag. It's got some interesting premise stuff to it, but ultimately this $10 price tag probably isn't worth it. It's got some cool art here and there. We got a bunch of different artists, so it kind of depends on the story. But like, I don't know. This is a pretty brutal one. Seeing Martha Kent get literally barbecued is pretty fucked. Like, it's got some neat art. It's got some interesting stuff in it, but ultimately, I don't think it was worth the $10. You know, we got the Harley Quinn story. That one's okay too, but not great. I don't know. I'm mixed feelings on this. I don't think I completely wasted my money because I really, really like that Shazam story. But some of this stuff is kind of pointless and not really necessary. And then you just got the stupid of the Two-Face story, Unmasked. So, DC's House of Horror, I wouldn't recommend paying the full $10 for it. I mean, if what I talked about sounds interesting to you with the other stories anyway, then yeah, sure, it's for you. But I wouldn't recommend the full $10 for it. But it's got enough good in it that, like, if you could maybe get a deal on it or something like that, if you see it around, it might be worth it. I don't know how much this will circulate, but, you know, take it for what it's worth. All right. Moving along, hour in. Let's talk about Silver Surfer number 14. I was right, and I'm pissed, and I was right, and I'm pissed. I'm pissed, and I was right. That sucks, man. Not the issue. The issue is great. The issue is beautiful. But, like, why when I start reading a book does it end? Why does that happen to me constantly? When I start reading a book that's been going for a while, I'm like, oh man, I'm really getting into this. I really like this. And this was a great book. It was so damn emotional. It really, really pushed all the right buttons for me. Okay, yeah, it's over 3 issues later. You serious? Are you fucking serious with me right now? Why? Why? Oh, that's a killer, man. So anyway, in this issue, Silver Surfer makes it back to, you know, the right universe, and uses, with Dawn Greenwood's, you know, energy, with Dawn Greenwood's body converted into cosmic energy, he makes it back to our universe, and immediately once making it back at, you know, the Big Bang, he expels her cosmic energy back into the universe, and he's like, the great act is done, and I have kept my word. We are home. Though this is the end of our story, Dawn, know this. I will never forget you. And he takes the power cosmic and shoots it up into the universe, and he says goodbye. And then he spends the next several millennia disguised as Norville, the personality he had in his life with Dawn in the other universe, the pre-universe, let's call it. He goes through reality, fading out of perception as Norville, watching the universe develop till he catches up with himself. He sees his first encounter with Galactus. He sees himself become Galactus's herald. He sees Galactus come to Earth, and, you know, he and the Fantastic Four fighting him. And he is on Earth at that point. And then he meets Dawn's family when she is a child. and goes and sees them once every summer for 10 years. And then he's gone for a bit, and he comes back with this weird cylindrical tube and tells Dawn's father to just think of it like a camera, but it's not going to print pictures. So he still uses it, though he doesn't know exactly what it does. And then Dawn goes missing because she's taken off to go on adventures with the Silver Surfer. And he promises her father that he'll find her and she'll be safe. And then he, travels. He watches his travels with Dawn, with this woman that he loved. And then we realize he's back on this holographic planet that he had visited previously with Dawn, and there's a holographic version of Dawn there. So once he sees himself and Dawn decide to go back to the past, which is what they did that got them trapped in the pre-universe together, he's like, okay, now it's all come full circle. I can finally be myself again. And he morphs back into the Silver Surfer and immediately goes to tell Dawn's family that she passed away in this pre-universe, that they're never going to be able to see her again because she's dead. She's been dead for millennia by his perspective. And they're, of course, very hurt by this, but he tells them, you won't ever be able to see her again, but there is a way in which you two, you as a group, can live together, can live out your lives together. And he hands them these tubes, and it's all part of this elaborate holographic machine. So they make holographic copies of all Dawn's family members, and they can live out their lives together on this little holographic planet. And he even leaves a copy of himself to be in love with Dawn forever. And as he's getting ready to leave, holographic Dawn, Surfer, what about you? You're Dawn, the corporeal one. She's gone. You'll be alone again. And he says, yes and no. Part of her is still with me. With all of us. For you see, when I fired off that bolt of energy at the start of creation, it became the first light in the universe, forever echoing throughout all of time. And on every world in existence, as endless forms of life evolved and made their way out of the dark, they all shared one thing in common: their first sight, the break of day, and they all knew to give it the same name. And so you just see all of these different aliens looking off into the sunrise and calling it dawn. I'm dead. I can't go on with this review. I'm dead. That is the most beautiful thing. Oh, that is... Like, the only thing I have to compare that to is, oddly enough, something in real life. Can't remember his name. It's not Buzz Aldrin. One of the astronauts that walked on the moon did something really, really cool that is just... I mean, I love my father. He's no longer with us. I loved my father, but I think this astronaut may just be the greatest dad in history. Eugene Surin is an astronaut who actually walked on the moon, and, you know, everyone else planted flags, played golf, drove a car, all this other stuff. Eugene wrote his daughter's initials in the sand of the moon, in the surface of the moon. And because the moon does not weather, because the moon is exposed to the vacuum, short of a meteor or an asteroid striking that exact spot, her initials will be in the sky forever. And that is the coolest thing. And like, so this really reminds me of that like, act of love and devotion to Dawn is to put her as the beginning of light in the universe, and so every species looks out, and apparently it's the same word throughout all the galaxy, all the universe. Dawn, the first light. That is absolutely beautiful. Anyway, so Norrin says goodbye to the holographic Dawn and the holographic family he's left her to grow with, and goes to travel throughout the universe. But he left one thing for himself, and that is that the power cosmic will always be red and black in honor of the colors that Dawn wore. He has changed the configuration of the power cosmic to always be red and black in tribute to her. And so the last page of this issue, the universe beckons. Come, let's see some new stars. Anywhere and everywhere. Hang on. Right in the feels, man. What a way to end a series. No, this doesn't end prematurely. Akuma Ranger says, let me guess, he gives up the board. No, he doesn't give up the board. He's going to continue to adventure on. But what an emotional way to end a story. Man, that is really, really just right in the feels, man. Oh. And of course, this is when I start reading it. So I've got to hunt down either the other single issues or the trades for this, for all of Slott and Allred's 29 issues. I think they said Silver Surfer comics, because man, that is too good. There's a great little interview in the back with, or not interview, great little section in the back with Dan Slott and Michael Allred giving their feelings on what this book meant to them and the impact it left. And man, these two were really, really well attached to this. You can tell when there's passion behind a project, and these two clearly have a lot of it. So this was a really, really good issue. What can I say about Allred's art? I love, like, Allred's art is deceptively simplistic, in just the most perfect way, because there's a lot of talent and a lot of work that goes into it, but he doesn't put like the the same level of detail and quote unquote polish into stuff that like other well, here I got Todd McFarlane right here. Spoilers for Trade Talk, but so this cover is done by Todd McFarlane for this Prince of Persia comic, and like, Todd McFarlane puts a lot of fucking detail and realism into his art, and it's one of the things I love about Todd McFarlane as an artist. You can't, say that he doesn't, but Allred has this deceptively simplistic thing where there's definitely talent and background there, but there's also just a really, really great sense of not to overcomplicate it, not to make it too detailed. Because what the great benefit of this art style is it makes this comic timeless. Just nothing about this screams 2010s. Nothing about it screams 2000s, 90s. Like, you can look at a book. You can look at a comic book from a certain era, and you can just tell when that was made. Just based on the art style and the techniques at hand. So let me grab a 90s comic, 2000s comic. I won't pick Hush because Jim Lee's style is just way too recognizable. 2000s comic, and do I have anything earlier or later? Yes I do. And a comic that collects different eras, and we can look at and dissect these different art styles, and it's really, really interesting to do. So we'll look at comic art through the ages based on Batman. So let's look at, you know, the recent decade first. Let's look at 2000s art. Like, okay, 2010s art, you know, I'll just grab the nearest book. The DC House of Horror book's a pretty good example of this. You know, there's like, obviously every artist has a different style, but there's certain things about just the way things are done as far as coloring and techniques used to communicate things in this day and age that you can just tell based on a certain level of polish when this was done. Like this panel right here is really good of Flash coming in. Like you can tell a lot of computer stuff was used for the glow effects, and you know, Green Lantern symbol there. That's a pretty good example of that. So there's 2010s art style. Let's look at Batman War Games for 2000s art. Lot of ink. You know, just all over the place with this kind of stuff. You know, there's Stephanie Brown, Robin. You don't see that very often. Like, so there's a lot of ink, a lot of darkness put into a lot of this stuff. There's, you know, this one, a lot of detail is being added to comics, but with a better sense of minimalism, to do not, you know, overemphasize too much. And computers were kind of in, kind of out. You'd see them sometimes, but not all the time like you do nowadays. And then let's look at 90s art in comics. Like, again, computer coloring was used. It's a subtle difference, but you see a wide variety of detail put in. You see some, like, pretty ridiculous levels of stuff thrown in just for the hell of it. Like, electricity was huge in the 90s. This way of doing electricity, you know, it's all over the place. The way energy works. Oh, God, 90s Superman. 90s blue electric Superman. You know, there's just a lot going on here. The style changes radically. You can just look at it and you go, this is the 90s. Not just the way the costumes are designed. Even when you get flashback stuff, this is the 90s. Just everything about it screams 90s to you. And then if we go to, you know, a collection of stuff from different eras, you can look at different eras, you can tell when that was published. So, like, here's Batman #1, The Origin of the Joker. Obviously, very 30s art style. Very, very minimalist. Get as much done as quickly as possible. Make it cheap, make it quick, make it fast. And then, you know, we can go ahead to the 50s. Oh, no. That's still 40s. We can go ahead to, like, 50s art styles and stuff, and you can see changes in that. Okay, here we go. A lot brighter, a lot more vibrant, a lot more fun stuff going on there. Jump ahead again. This looks like, I'm gonna guess 60s to 70s. It's a gorilla. I'm pretty sure that's the 60s. You know, just you can look at the visual. You can just look at the way things are drawn, and you can just tell. You know. Jump ahead further. That's 70s. That's 70s right there. Everything about that screams 70s. A lot more blacks, a lot less vibrant color schemes. See, like, Joker's wearing a purple suit, but it's more of a muted purple. Just the way things are done. You can look at it and see the era. I have no idea when each of these stories were published off the top of my head without looking through some of this. But I just feel like I can call it. This also 70s. That's a very Neil Adams style Batman. Does the Joker's greatest stories go up to the 80s? That's 70s. I don't think we have anything from the 80s in this book. Oh, maybe. No. Walt Simonson. Len Wein. That might be 80s. It's hard to tell sometimes. 80s had a particular look to it too, but I can't seem to find anything from the 80s. 70s and 80s tend to blend, but like I said, so you got all these different eras that have like a very visual cue. This doesn't. Mike Allred, you know, very, very, you know, timeless kind of look to it. Like, it's got some techniques that you know, okay, that was done in a computer, but still, so much of this just has such a deceptively simple, minimalist style art design to it that it just looks, solid. It just looks like it could be from any time. Unless you really, really know your comics history, you probably wouldn't know when this was, what the art style, or what era this was made in. And that's really great. So really, really cool stuff. Love, love, love that Silver Surfer run, even though I only read a little bit at the tail end of it. I'm very, very interested in reading the greater collection of stuff. All right. Let's go ahead and talk Wonder Woman, number 33. Still disappointed that this isn't being written by someone I particularly care for based on their first story, and I wanted to give this more of a chance. So I read this issue. And this is very much problematic of, like, a complaint a lot of people have with DC Rebirth, which is nothing is happening. Just nothing is happening issue to issue. It's like very, very little plot progression is happening. And yeah, that's a big problem here, because what is happening in this issue? The daughter of Darkseid is fighting different sons and daughters of Zeus and giving their energy to Darkseid. Who is, like, I mean, it's kind of adorable that Darkseid's a 6-year-old. Like, just Darkseid as a child is kind of adorable. And then Darkseid as a baby is more adorable. When am I going to get my baby Darkseid plushie? That's what I need in my life, is my baby Darkseid plushie. I want it, I want it, I want it! Oh, man. So, yeah, just, like, everything about that is hilarious. But anyway, so, like, in this issue, seriously, it's just the daughter of Darkseid, Grail. Grail? It's a terrible name for a character. Nothing about that is New Gods-esque. Granny Goodness, Orion, Light Ray, Scott Free, Mr. Miracle, Grail. Now, just... You can almost hear the record skip. Anyway, so she's fighting off these demigods and giving their energy to child Darkseid so that he can age more. And that's seriously the entire issue. She talks about, oh, when I was raising him as a baby, he told me what I had to do, and then we were attacked by the government, and so we had to run away. Baby Darkseid kills a man. It's kind of cool. Like, this soldier has eyes on Darkseid. He's about to, like, shoot him in the face, and then all of a sudden just Omega beamed to death by Baby Darkseid. That's kind of cool. So, yeah, they go, and it's just all these panels of them killing people, and then they have the conversation about, okay, now we're going to go after Jason, Wonder Woman's brother. And then Jason's just on a boat. He's like, no, you're not going to go after him yet. I'm going to test him. Well, what test if not combat? Oh, you'll see next month if you buy the next issue of Wonder Woman. I mean, I'm just going to read it. It's not like the worst thing ever. It's just like nothing happened in this issue. We got Child Darkseid, which is like a fun novelty that I have no idea where the fuck this is coming from. And again, I talked about this the last thing. Darkseid does not get reborn as a child. You're thinking of Apocalypse. Go write your Apocalypse story. Darkseid is born through pain and suffering of a person that is like a parasite that eats its way out of and controls a person. That was the, like, whether or not you liked Final Crisis, you kind of have to admit, for the way for Darkseid to rebirth himself via a vessel, eating his way outside of a good man and corrupting and breaking him down and destroying him, is so much more interesting than child. Darkseid comes back as a child and has to eat the energy of old gods to, sustain himself. and become an adult again. On that idea. Though baby Darkseid. I'll give it that. Baby Darkseid. Yeah. Not a good issue. The art's okay. I think Darkseid... Like, it's weird, because, you know, besides the Omega Beams, this kid doesn't really scream Darkseid to me. And, like, that's just a problem because, you know, like, what it is his skin. You know, his skin's just gray here. He should have the lava rock style skin. Why doesn't he have the lava rock skin? Is that going to be, like, something connected to his Omega Beams? Like, is that why, like, you know, right now they're constantly pulsing out of his eyes, and normally they don't do that because it's contained more within him, but his skin, like, blisters and cracks because of that? Like, that'd be a cool explanation for it, but right now it doesn't seem like they're putting any thought into it. It's like, okay, well, Darkseid's daughter, we color her skin just flat gray, so we're going to do the same for Darkseid. Well, don't. If there's thought put into it, I'll give it a pass, but if it's just, well, her skin's gray, so his skin's gray. Also, Darkseid does not smile. I don't like that. I don't care if he's young. Darkseid does not smile. Let's go ahead and go on. That's going to do it for the single issues this week. I'm a bit parched. I'm going to go grab some to drink real quick before I move on to the trade. So, excuse me momentarily, live audience. People watching after the fact, link timestamp in the description to skip ahead. My wife is crazy. She has our lizard. She's doing dishes in the other room, if you couldn't hear. And she has our pet lizard, Danny, sitting on the counter watching her do dishes. I'm married to a crazy person. Anyway, I hope everyone's doing alright in the comments tonight. I seem to be keeping you well entertained, I would hope. So I'm going to take a swig of my soda, which is totally going to help me not be parched, right? And then I'm going to go to full screen on this, so won't be interacting with the live audience anymore. See you guys. And before I get started, I'm going to actually take the dust jacket off, because that's a professional thing to do. Alright. So, see you live audience. Getting ready to do Trade Talk now. Hi, welcome to this week's episode of Trade Talk. This week we're talking about kind of a unique thing. I'm always excited when I can have the best review of a thing just based on my ability to actually talk about a book. There's not a lot of reviews of Prince of Persia before the Sandstorm. So this is one of those things where I picked it up exclusively because I liked the Prince of Persia and Todd McFarlane did the cover. That's the only reason I bought this. It's Todd McFarlane did the cover and drew the Prince of Persia. It's not technically the Prince of Persia because you'll notice the Disney logo up top. This is based on the movie. It's not an adaptation of the movie. It's kind of a prequel, side story, spin-off thing of the movie. And it's not particularly good. So I had to rewatch the Disney movie in order to understand what was going on here. And the Disney movie is not awful, but it is literally nothing. It's not awful not because it's well done. It's awful because it is literally nothing. Like, it is the most nothing movie I think I've ever watched. But in the Disney movie, they have these characters, Siso, who's like a knife-throwing African tribesman, and I can't remember his name. Actually, this desk jacket is the actual cover. I've got to find his name. Shikamar. So we have Shikamar and Siso, who are in the movie. Siso is the knife-throwing guy, if you remember him from the live-action movie. And Shikamar is the dude that owns the ostrich racing track and doesn't like paying taxes. So this is a story about those guys. They are arrested and taken before a governor of a city, and they're arrested for clearly having way too much wealth for their social class. So they obviously stole it. And we get a very Arabian Nights style thing here, where it's like them and then 3 other people that were with them at the time. So they were having a big party with all this money that like clearly had to have been stolen. And they're told that Sheik and Shikamar and Siso will be beheaded and their compatriots flogged for associating with thieves. And like the reason they'll be beheaded specifically is because the objects that they clearly stole bear the royal markings. So they stole them from royalty. So they'll be beheaded for their crimes. And they say, no, we received these from Prince Dastan. Dastan? Like, we were minding our own business when some Persian soldiers came, and they said, Prince Dastan wants you to have this, and they dropped off the items with us. And the Sultan, of course, doesn't believe this, or Sultan, or whatever he's supposed to be, doesn't believe this, and orders their execution. But then Shikamir begins what the whole premise is, which is this very Arabian Nights scenario of telling stories about why they may have gotten, like believable reasons that they would have gotten this money from Prince Dastan as a gift from Prince Dastan. So he's like, oh, no, wait, now I remember. Oh, years ago I was in this bad situation. I was locked in prison, but not anything that I did. I was just waiting for my day in court, you know. And I was locked up with a young boy who had fallen in love with a beautiful woman who turned out to be the princess. And he was a street thief, and he, was in love with her, Princess Jasmine, and there was an evil sultan named Jafar that didn't want the boy to be in love with this girl because he wanted to marry her himself. And so he arranged for the boy to be arrested. But I helped the boy escape the prison, and he went back to go fight Jafar and win the woman's hand. And that's the last I saw of him. And that boy must have been Dastan, and he clearly married the princess and gained favor with the king for protecting his daughter. And so that's why he was so grateful to me after all these years. He must have tracked me down and sent me this treasure. And like, so that story is complete bullshit. It is ripped straight out of an Arabian Nights tale. And so he's like, you're clearly just making this stuff up. Now I will say, they do one thing that's really cool. It has nothing to do with anything. So all I'm going to do right now is spoil you with a really fucking awesome image that means nothing. Okay? Dark Prince. Oh, guys, I love the Prince of Persia games, and the Dark Prince is hands down the coolest fucking character in the franchise to me. For my money. That guy is such a badass. Fucking chain whipping around and shit. So yeah, like the boy in this story looks in a mirror and sees the Dark Prince, and he steps into the mirror and he hops out as the Dark Prince, ready to kill all these soldiers. That's literally it. All you get is this page. Nothing else. Nothing. Complete and total waste. It is so an apt sequel to the movie because it is nothing. But it looks really, really cool. Who did the art on this one? Because they switch artists for every story that's told. Disney has this weird thing where they don't do very good comic tie-ins with stuff. It's pretty annoying, to be perfectly honest with you. Let's see here. So the first story, Shikamar's Tale. Oh, Bernard Chang. Interesting that he did the art on this. Bernard Chang also did the art on Batman Beyond for this week's issue. So this is, 7 years later for the guy. He does a cool-looking Dark Prince. It doesn't really have anything to do with anything, but he does a cool-looking Dark Prince. I'll give him that. Bernard Chang, I think he's been doing the art on the new Batman Beyond series since it got started. But, yeah, it looks cool as shit. It looks cool as shit. And it's nothing. It is literally nothing. So anyways, the Sultan hears this whole story. He goes, "No, you're fucking full of shit. I know that story from when I was a kid. You're a liar." And then Ciso, the knife thrower from the movie, steps up and he's like, No, this man is of impeccable honor and dignity, I promise you. And so this is like a partly true, partly falsified story wherein we get to see what actually happened as to how these two met, but everything we see, Ciso narrates and spins as if he's telling it differently than what we're seeing. So Ciso was a tribesman hunting in the plains of Africa, but his village was raided and he was captured and sold into slavery, and he slowly learned, or he first met Shikimar when he was being sold at market, and Shikimar tried to buy him but was not allowed to because his money was considered counterfeit. But then he was, learned the language, served in a rich-ass mansion, and when the son or something like that of one of the mansion, of the house owner, was getting married, the new family was brought over before the wedding and they were staying in the house, and one of the daughter that was to be married really liked Ciso, and she was like throwing glances at him and stuff, and so he was like trying his best not to be alone with her. But then the night of the wedding, he stumbles into her tent without realizing it's her in there, and she immediately throws herself on him. But then due to a series of bizarre circumstances, they are caught, and she says, "No, he tried to rape me." And so Ciso has to try to run away and all this stuff, and he runs into Shikimar, and this is like the actual way that they met. Shikimar knows that he's a really good knife thrower based on his tribe, and convinces the guards that he's part of his whole like circus act thing, and gets him out of the situation. That's how they met. But Ciso tells the story in that, like, oh, he was this honorable man, and when this woman threw herself at me, everyone was ready to kill me, but then he stood up for me. He said, "No, I know this man. He would not do that. If he says that this woman threw herself at him, then she did." And so, he got me off. That's how honorable and good this man is. And then the governor or whatever is like, even if it's true, all it is your word. You have nothing to really back that up. And then one of the women that was with them, who's an original character for the graphic novel, tells her story of a story she heard from a woman she was in a harem with at one point. Dinizard's Tale, with art by Niko Henrichon. So this is where like it breaks from being just about Shikimar and Ciso and starts to like fill in some of the stuff for the rest of the mythos that the movie has. Because in the movie, he at one point has to fight the assassins, which are like, a pretty infamous Persian branch You know, they are assassins. So in the movie, he has to fight them, and so here we get kind of like some background on the assassins, wherein this girl is brought to a remote castle and is brought back with all these women in this lush garden area with all this beautiful food, and at night a boy is brought to them drugged, and he wakes up and they are just all over him, pampering him, giving him whatever he wants, giving him a night of paradise before drugging him before he goes back to sleep. And she doesn't know why they're doing this, but she's there for a while. Like, she was there for 6 months, and she doesn't understand why they're doing this for these boys, but they keep doing it. And then, like, the boy that brought her there has snuck back, and he has promised her a way out because he loves her, and he wants to help her escape from this life. And while they're on their way out, they see that this is where they bring new boys to be indoctrinated and made part of the assassins. And so what they do is they drug them and tell them, you're going to experience paradise for one night, and if you ever die fighting as a assassin, then you'll experience this forever. And like, so the whole idea is that will make them fearless. That will make them perfectly willing to die in battle because they have paradise waiting for them. So it's like the whole idea, like the 72 virgins thing, but it's expanded out to be its own thing without being just blatantly insulting to Islam, which is nice. It's a pretty clever way to do that. And so you get, like, this guy tries to save this girl, and she manages to escape, but the assassins catch up with him before he can go. And so he says, no, it was just me, and she escapes, and blah, blah. And that somehow has something to do with why they should let these guys go. It starts to get really tangential at that point. And then we get a story that fills in the background of the city of Alamut, which is the city that the Persians invade, that has the Dagger of Time, all that stuff within it, and we get the background of why it's such a holy city and all this stuff through another story, and why it contains the sands of time, yada yada yada. It's not terribly interesting, but anyway, the last story is probably the least interesting. It might just be the longest. Anyway, they all explain, so this is why you should let us go, and the Sultan guy's just like, fucking no, you're all a bunch of idiots. Get the fuck out of here with your goddamn stories. I'm beheading these two. And then the two of them, oh wait, there is one more story, my bad. There's one other guy with him that was like, you know, helping them out, and so he tells another story that's directly about Prince Dastan and the stuff he has to deal with. So, like, there's this Persian soldier that's captured on this remote island and enslaved with a bunch of other Persian soldiers, but manages to escape one night. And while, you know, searching for a way off the island, he runs into what ends up being Prince Dastan and Biss, who is a character for like 10 minutes in the movie. He runs into them, and then they become fast friends after a brawl, and they decide to go back to the castle with the evil monster in it, and it's like this guy with these two snakes coming out of his shoulders, and so the prince manages to fight the snakes off and basically save the day. And then he sails home, or he sails to go join his brothers on the front lines of this war that their father's fighting, and they laugh at him because they've already conquered the city, and he showed up in a boat that he didn't leave in. So like that story worked a bit as well. It just kind of gives you the background of the kind of shit that the prince has had to deal with. It gives you some interesting background on like the way he interacts with his brothers, stuff like that kind of works, and that relationship's relatively important to the movie. But anyway, Sultan says, yeah, I'm gonna kill these fucking guys, and that's when they make their escape, and get away at the last possible minute. But as the Sultan is trying to organize a manhunt for them, representative of the palace shows up and says, Prince Destan received your message. You have 2 men and his royal property in your custody? And the Sultan's like, yes. Well, that is. The prince orders that on no condition are these men to be harmed. They are to be set free immediately with his apologies. And like that's so like that is what puts it in context as to why these guys got all this gold from Destan. It's not because of anything they said, it's because of the events of the movie. Because in the movie, Destan uses their help. The knife thrower has a boss fight with one of the assassins, and Sheikh Amir has Amir. I keep wanting to say Amir. Sheikh Amir has like a whole knockdown, drag out thing to distract some guards. So like they helped him save the day at the end, but at the end time is rewound, so none of the events of the movie actually happened to anyone except the prince, and so he never got the chance to thank them for their help. So this is kind of a sequel thing that gives you a bunch of stories that maybe happened in this universe, and it's whatever. It's like, it's a fun little tie-in to a movie that's not very good, so it's kind of like a nothing tie-in plot-wise. It's got some cool images. I don't know why Prince of Persia hasn't had comics. I mean, you could maybe say it's only got one real story, and that's in those first 3 games, but I don't know. Would I be the only one that would read some Prince of Persia comics? I feel like you could do some interesting stuff. Like, there's a nice, rich mythology you could exploit there. You just do something else that the prince has to deal with that's not connected directly to the dagger. Now he just fucking has it. Otherwise, it's alright. The art's okay. The stories are fun and entertaining. It's probably better than the movie in many ways, but you have to watch the movie for it to make much sense. So, take it as you will. Meh. Just okay. Just an okay whatever book. I was talking about this at the beginning. Disney doesn't do very good comic crossovers. Like, I tried to watch or read a Pirates of the Caribbean comic with Captain Jack Sparrow as the main character, and that should have been really fun and look really cool, and it was not. It did not. It was a rousing disappointment. This is better, but just because the art's better and the story is at least, comprehensible, the Pirates one was not very good. So like, this gets minimal praise is what I'm saying. Like, it's okay. It is fine. If you're a Prince of Persia fan, I'm sure you'll like something about it. But like, the weird thing is, why wouldn't you just make this about the Prince of Persia? Why is it about these side characters from the movie? Why wouldn't you make it a comic adventure about the prince? And also, the title, Before the Sandstorm, is a prequel to Now There's Fucking Sand Everywhere. Stole that joke from Brit for Fun on Twitter, and I like that joke. I will stick by stealing that joke. But no, like, it's not the title doesn't really make sense because this takes place after the film, and if the sandstorm is the film, because there's a sandstorm in the film, I guess, it doesn't make much sense. There's no sandstorm in this book. There's no sandstorm imagery alluded to in any significant way. This is just a pretty meaningless title. So yeah, it's whatever. It's just an okay book, all things considered. Not particularly impressive. But that'll do it for this episode of Trade Talk. So thank you very much, everyone, for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you had a good time. Bye. And to everyone that showed up live for the show, I hope you enjoyed yourselves. I hope I was entertaining. But that'll do it for me as well. So talk at ya later.